dinner with my best friend, and her father was supposed to be ordinary, familiar even. But the moment his hand slid across my thigh, under the table, under the lie, I stopped breathing. Her laughter echoed through the room, while I sat there frozen, holding a fork, pretending to be someone I no longer recognized. I thought I could control it. I thought I was in charge. But that night, in the middle of chicken and red wine, I realized I was the secret. And secrets don't stay quiet forever. You can't imagine what happened next. Welcome to Vows and Betrayals, where we share stories that shake the soul and echo in your chest. If you've ever stayed silent when you should have screamed, tell me with a in the comments. You're not alone. Thank you for being here. If this is your first time listening, tap subscribe. This channel is where secrets unravel and healing begins. Let's step into the fire together. Now, let's begin the story. Hey, I'm Lena. I'm 23, and I used to believe that needing help was a weakness. I thought if I just worked harder, smiled wider, and kept my head down, life would somehow reward me. Spoiler alert, it didn't. I dropped out of my early childhood education program after my third semester. Not because I wanted to, but because I was drowning in bills I couldn't pay, juggling two jobs that barely paid minimum wage and living in a car that smelled like burned fries and disappointment. Eventually, even that broke down. I ended up in Savannah, Georgia, where the heat sticks to your skin like regret. I got a job at an old gas station off Route 17, the kind with flickering lights and coffee that tastes like gasoline. I stocked shelves by day and wiped down dirty coolers at night. When the manager found out I was sleeping in the break room, he gave me one final check and a long stare before locking the door behind me. I didn't have many friends left. Not real ones. But Monica was different. We grew up 3 blocks apart. She had braces and a trampoline. I had holes in my socks and a mom who worked night shifts. She was sunshine in a human body, wild, smart, unfiltered. We lost touch for a while after high school, but when I texted her out of the blue, she replied in under 3 minutes, "Come stay with me. No questions. Just come." So I did. Her place was nicer than I expected. Big, polished, cold. The kind of cold that's expensive. That's when I met her father, Richard Hale. He was all calm and charisma. The kind of man who didn't need to raise his voice to be heard. Tall with silver at his temples and a quiet way of looking at people that made you feel seen and inspected all at once. Monica said he'd been different since her mom died. Quieter, distant, still rich, still respected. But something in him had cracked. One night, I was sitting out on their back porch, holding a pink envelope, my final eviction notice, when Richard stepped outside with a glass of bourbon. He didn't say anything at first, just sat down beside me, his watch glinting under the porch light. "You're tired," he finally said. "Tired of trying to swim with your pockets full of stones." I didn't answer, but I think I exhaled in a way that told him everything. The next day, he gave me a book. It was leather-bound, worn at the edges, the kind of journal you don't just hand to anyone. "This belonged to someone who used to spend time at the lake cabin," he said, voice low. "She used to write when no one was listening." That night, I opened it. The first page read, "He always said I was different. But I think he just liked how quiet I was. And suddenly, I wasn't sure if this story I was living was really mine at all. I told myself it was just help, that he was just being kind. But help that comes in steady waves can feel like a tide, and tides don't ask your permission before they pull you under. Richard paid my rent, quietly, without a word. Then he handed me a set of keys, an old Corolla from one of his dealerships. It smelled like leather and faint cologne, like a memory someone tried to forget. A week later, he offered me a desk job at his main office. He said I had an honest face. I wasn't sure if that was a compliment or a warning. I wore a borrowed blazer and shaky confidence on my first day. But everyone was kind, or at least polite. They all knew whose office I walked out of at lunch. Richard never touched me at work, never even looked too long. But sometimes his voice on the intercom gave me chills I didn't know how to name. 2 weeks in, he invited me to the lake cabin. Just for the weekend, he said. You could use some air. The place looked like a painting cedar wood wild ivy silence. Inside, everything was neat, curated. Like grief had been organized into furniture. That night, I stood barefoot in the hallway, the kind of quiet that hums in your bones. He poured wine. I drank slow. When he leaned in, it wasn't abrupt. It felt like the first few seconds of a summer storm. Quiet, deliberate, the kind of stillness where the wind holds its breath. His lips met mine the way fire meets dry wood. Soft at first, almost apologetic, then warmer and hungrier. I didn't pull away. I didn't want to. It wasn't just a kiss. It was the flipping of a coin between rescue and ruin. Afterward, he tucked my hair behind my ear and said, You deserve to feel safe, Lena. With me, you always will. I believed him. When we got back to the city, things changed. He started buying me things I never asked for, a silk robe perfume that smelled like hotel rooms, and once, a thin gold bracelet with no clasp, just pressure. I wore it like a promise. One evening, he mentioned getting me my own place. Somewhere quiet, he said. Something just yours. He gave me the listing, a cozy condo on West Clay Street. I drove by it the next morning, heart racing. But when I looked up the ownership records at the county clerk's office, the name listed on the deed wasn't mine. It wasn't his, either. It was Margaret Hale, his late wife. That moment didn't feel like betrayal. It felt worse. It felt like being handed a dress that had already been worn to someone else's funeral. It didn't take long before the lies started. They weren't bold lies, just little edits. I have to work late. I'm not feeling well. Richard isn't home. At first, Monica didn't question them. She just smiled and tossed her curls like she always did. But then she started pausing, looking, reading between the lines. I didn't mean to draw. You've been weird lately, she said one night, handing me a glass of wine. You're here, but not here. Did I do something? I shook my head too quickly. You'd tell me if something was wrong. Right? She asked. I nodded, too slowly. Monica had this way of seeing through people, like she carried an X-ray machine in her voice. That same night, after we watched a movie in silence, she blurted, You know, I used to think if you were a guy, I probably would have fallen in love with you. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because my heart didn't know what else to do. She looked away, cheeks pink, and said, Forget it. But I couldn't. Not that night. Not ever. Because suddenly, the betrayal wasn't just about secrets and sex. It was about love, the quiet kind. The kind you never even get to name before you destroy it. After that, I started avoiding her more. Richard noticed. He liked it. Keep some space between you and Monica, he said one evening, his voice thick like syrup fingers brushing my neck. She asks too many questions. I told him I felt guilty. He said, That's just the part of you that still cares. It'll pass. He started texting me more often, calling, wanting to know where I was, who I was with, even what I wore. At first I thought it was attention. Now I know it was surveillance. The bracelet, the condo, the car, they weren't gifts. They were anchors. The more I tried to breathe, the more I realized I was underwater. Then came the night Monica dropped the match. We were folding laundry in her room, something so simple, so ordinary, I almost forgot we were living a lie between us. She held up one of her old sweaters and said, "You know, before Mom passed, she told me something weird." I looked up. She said Dad had a pattern, that he liked to fix broken women. But they always ended up more broken after. The room felt colder. My hands stopped moving. She never had proof. Just feelings, Monica added. Then she looked at me, right at me. Her eyes didn't blink. She said if something ever felt off with him, I should trust my gut. I think I forgot how to swallow. My mouth stayed open just long enough for guilt to slip in and sit there, heavy, real, unavoidable. The day the truth came out, the sky was so blue it felt like a joke. Monica didn't call first. She texted, "We need to talk. Now." No emojis, no warmth, just a sentence that felt like a punch. I was still trying to figure out what she meant when my phone rang. I picked up. My voice cracked on the first hello. She didn't scream, didn't yell. She sounded flat, empty, like someone who'd already cried out everything. "I saw the photos," she said. "Your clothes in the background, your hand on his chest, the receipts, the texts, all of it." My chest tightened like it was wrapped in wires. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even lie. There was nothing left to hide behind. "You were in his bed," she said again, slower this time. "My dad's bed." I tried to say something, anything, but she kept going. "You know what's funny?" Her voice shook. "I used to call you my sister. That broke me." My mouth opened, but the words never came. "Don't bother explaining. I already know what I need to know." Click. Silence. She blocked my number within minutes. I tried email, even wrote a letter I never sent. I watched our old photos on social media get wiped one by one, like I was being erased from a timeline I no longer deserved. And Richard, he handled it like a press release. "I think it's best if we both take some space," he said, folding a napkin like we were in a boardroom. "What does that mean?" I asked, voice trembling. "It means this chapter's over. For now." I stared at him, remembering every time he said I mattered. How many of those words were real? Was any of it true? I whispered. He didn't answer. Instead, he slid a check across the table. "Just in case you need time." I didn't take it. Not the check. Not the pity. Not the pretend apology. By the end of the week, I was out of work. Internal restructuring, they called it. Out of friends. Out of options. And most painfully, out of a home. I stayed in a cheap motel off the highway. Shared a bed with guilt and a space heater. Watched as my name slowly turned into a rumor. People didn't ask for my side. They just looked at me like a headline. You think betrayal is loud, but it's not. It's quiet. It's watching someone you love look at you like you never existed. It's realizing the ground beneath your feet was never solid, just someone else's illusion you mistook for shelter. Rock bottom didn't feel like a crash. It felt quiet, like a flat line on a heart monitor, not dramatic, just final. I took a job at a coffee shop near the community college. I wiped tables, refilled sugar packets, and smiled like my heart wasn't shattered glass. But every tip I made every early morning I showed up was a brick in the road back to myself. I re-enrolled in school, paid every cent on my own, got a roommate who didn't ask too many questions, found a therapist who didn't flinch when I said I gave too much to someone who gave nothing back. That was the hardest part, learning how to speak the truth. without hating myself for once believing a lie. It took time and tears and a whole lot of quiet mornings staring at ceilings asking, was it all my fault? The answer is complicated. I wasn't innocent, but I wasn't evil either. I was just hungry for affection, for comfort, for something that looked like love and smelled like safety, but ended up being control dressed in kindness. What I've learned is this: if someone gives you help but asks for your silence in return, it's not help. It's a trap. And if someone says you owe them love because they gave you things they were never giving, they were investing in your silence. I used to think survival was enough. Now, I know healing is harder, but worth it. I still carry the shame, but it doesn't carry me anymore. And if Monica ever hears this, I want her to know I loved you. I failed you. But I never stopped remembering your kindness, even when I didn't deserve it. To anyone listening, if you've ever confused attention with love, if you've ever let silence keep you somewhere too long, if you've ever thought you were the only one who made a mistake you couldn't undo, you're not alone. And I need you to answer one question. If you were in my place, would you have spoken up sooner? Tell me. Tell someone. Tell yourself. Drop a comment. Share your story. Or just leave a single. We'll know what it means. And if this story stayed with you, hit subscribe. We share the truths no one wants to say out loud, but someone needs to hear. Let's be that voice. Together.